everybody. So today for book time, we are going to be reading this book. And I wonder, what do you notice about the cover of this book? So you see that there's a fox here, and I noticed there's some snow on the ground. So I wonder what time of the year, what season of the year do you think this fox is in? Maybe winter, right? Because there's snow and that means it's cold, right? So the title of this book is called Animals in Winter, and it's written by Henrietta Bancroft and Richard G. Van Gelder. And it's illustrated. The pictures were drawn by Helen K. Davy. Animals in Winter. The days grow short, the nights grow long. It is getting colder. Winter is coming. Leaves have fallen from the trees. There are no berries on the bushes. Insects are gone. The grass is dead and brown. Birds and other animals are getting ready for winter. Some of the birds will fly south. Bluebirds and orioles go toward the south. So you see there's a scarecrow right here. There's a sunflower. It looks like the sunflower is dried up. And it looks like the sun's going down. So I'm thinking it might be fall right here, right? Maybe going into winter. They go where it is warm and sunny and where there is food for them to eat. When spring comes, the birds will make the long journey back north. They migrate. So migrate means that the birds are any animal that migrates, that they move from one area to another area. So they're moving, migrate means that they're moving to another area. So the birds, they move south because it's warmer in the winter in the south and they could find food for themselves to eat. So they move from the north to the south, they migrate so they can be somewhere where it's warm and sunny and where they can find food for them to eat. Some butterflies migrate too. That is what the monarch butterflies do. So not only do birds migrate, but some butterflies also migrate like the monarch. And the monarch, they travel in packs to move to a warmer area. And that's why sometimes in October, you can find a lot of butterflies in San Antonio because they're migrating from the north to the south, which we're in the south, and also sometimes they end up in Mexico because it's nice and warm there for them. They gather in a tree by the hundreds before cold weather comes. They stay in the tree all night. In the morning, they fly toward their winter homes in the south. So it looks like they all gather in a tree. So if you see lots of butterflies in a tree, that means that they're migrating south. Many bats fly south too, but some bats stay in the north all winter. When the weather gets cold, they go to a cave. There is no wind or snow in the cave. The bats sleep there all winter. So some bats fly south, but other bats might stay in the north all winter. But what they do is when the winter gets cold, they go to their home in a cave and they stay there the whole winter sleeping because there's no wind and there's no snow, so they can all stay nice and warm with each other in the cave during winter while they sleep. They do not eat, they live on fat stored inside them. They do not move, they hardly breathe. They sleep, sleep, sleep. So they do not eat, they don't leave the cave, and they do not move. They hardly breathe. All they do is sleep, 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 and they survive off of the fat that's stored inside them, and that's called hibernate. Hibernate means that they sleep all winter. So the birds and the butterflies, they move from the north to the south, they migrate, and bats, they hibernate by sleeping all winter to stay warm. Woodchucks hibernate too. When fall comes, a woodchuck eats and eats and eats. He eats grass, twigs, and leaves. He grows fat. When it gets cold, the woodchuck crawls into his long tunnel and goes to sleep. So here's where you see the woodchuck. He's eating his grass so he can stay warm. This is a fall where he eats and eats and eats all he could eat so he could stay warm when he hibernates. Remember, bats hibernate? That's where they sleep all winter long. So here's his sleeping chamber, his toilet chamber, which means that's his where he goes restroom. He got the entrance right here and another entrance, and here he is crawling in. So this is where he sleeps when he hibernates. So I wonder what you notice about this page. So he's sleeping here, he's sleeping, he's sleeping, he's sleeping again. So this is inside his sleeping chamber, his bedroom. But what do you notice is going on outside? He's underground right here. But what's going on above ground? You see it's starting to snow a little bit here. There's more snow. There's some snow on a tree. Even more snow, and it looks like the wind's blowing really strong because the tree is moving to the side. And over here, you see the tree again, and it looks like the snow, some snow melted away, but there's still some here. And then there's some leaves growing on the tree. So I guess that means that the days are getting longer. Does he sleep for a day? Longer than that. Does he sleep for a week? Longer than that. A month? Even longer. A woodchuck can sleep as long as 4 months. So he can sleep the whole winter. This is December 1, January 2, February 3, March 4th. So we're in December, so that means woodchucks are hibernating. They're sleeping through the winter now. The woodchuck seems hardly alive. He breathes very slowly. His heart beats slowly. He sleeps, sleeps, sleeps. He hibernates. So like the bat, the woodchuck also hibernates, and where he slows down his breathing, he slows down his heart beating so he can stay alive, but he hardly looks alive. So if you went into a woodchuck's tunnel and you found him in his bedroom, he's gonna look like he's not alive because his breathing is slowing, his heartbeats are slow, and he's just asleep. He's sleeping through the winter. Some animals do not have to hibernate. They gather food and save it for the winter. So here, it doesn't look like it's winter here because there's green grass, and he has some green grass here, and here's some rock and everything. That is what a pika does. A pika looks a little like a rabbit, but with round ears. Pikas live in high mountains where winters are long and cold. They eat grass. In summer, they cut more grass than they can eat. They spread the grass on the flat stones. The hot sun dries it. So here in the other picture, here he is with his grass, and I just noticed that there's also some dry grass here. See how these are green and these are brown? So he had put it on the rock so it can dry and he can collect it and he can put it inside his house. By the end of summer, a pika may have gathered 50 pounds of grass. She hides it under rocks. In winter, she eats the dry grass. It keeps her alive. So here's the snow, and here's where she put all the dry grass so she can stay alive during winter. Here she is. What do you see that she's doing? She's eating the grass, right? To keep herself alive. It's cold and snowy outside, but here she's inside warm, keeping herself safe from the weather and eating her dry grass. Squirrels gather food too and save it for winter. They dig holes in the ground. They bury hickory nuts and acorns. So here's the squirrels. Now they're preparing for winter by gathering their food. And I've seen a squirrel before, but have you ever seen them dig holes in the ground, and that's where they bury their nuts and their acorns at to keep them safe for winter, right? When winter comes, they dig them up and eat them. Sometimes squirrels forget where they buried the nuts. Trees may grow from the nuts that squirrels forget. So the squirrels bury their food so they can eat it during winter, but then sometimes they forget where they put their food. Sometimes Miss Mora forgets where she puts things. So sometimes squirrels forget too. And when they forget and they bury the seed, what happens when you bury the seed in soil? It starts to grow, right? So that's why sometimes you might end up getting trees from where squirrels buried their nuts and forgot them. Some animals do not get ready for winter at all. They do not store food. They do not hibernate. They do not migrate. They must hunt for food all winter long. So what do you see on this picture? What do you notice about this picture? There's a cat, right, and some mice, and it looks like they got into a bag of like seeds or something, right? So mice is eating the seeds in this bag, and the cat, what's the cat looking at? The mice, right? So cats usually eat mice. So they're hunting for their food during the winter. There are mice that must hunt all winter for seeds of goldenrod, asters, and other wild plants. Sometimes they eat farmers' corn, oats, and wheat. Now, what did we see the mice do? What were they eating? The farmer stuff, right? That's what they were eating on this page. They opened the bag and they're eating the food from the bag. Deer must dig in the snow for dried leaves, plants, and moss. When the snow is deep, they must eat the twigs, buds, and bark of trees. So deer, do you see this deer? They dig in the snow, but if the snow is too deep for them, they have to survive off of the twigs and the buds and the bark, bark of the trees. So they end up eating wood to survive if the snow is too deep. There he is, see? Here's a rabbit. Looks like the rabbit's digging too. The rabbit must hunt under the snow for bits of grass and plants. When the snow is deep, he too eats the buds and bark of bushes so he can stay alive. So deer and rabbits are alike. They dig under the snow for grass and plants, but if they can't do that, then they have to eat the bark and twigs and bark of bushes to survive through the winter. In the winter, the fox hunts for mice and rabbits. So we just talked about how rabbits, they hunt for twigs and plants and stuff. Well, what eats them? Fox eat mice and rabbits. So he hunts for them while they're hunting for leaves and twigs and all that stuff. And look, what happened? What do you see on this picture? The fox jumped up, right? And I wonder, why do you think the fox jumped up? He found a mouse, that's right. The fox has discovered a mouse in its tunnel beneath the snow. So here's a mouse underneath the tunnel, and there's the fox jumping up to catch him. When the winter is cold and the snow is deep, many animals cannot find food. Here are some ways you can help animals in winter. So, what are some things you see to help animals in winter? You see old sunflower head, some seeds here. Looks like a string of stuff right here. So it says make a peanut and popcorn garland. So here's a peanut and popcorn garland. Nail a sunflower head to a post or fence. Here's a sunflower head. Make an apple, cranberry, raisin, and orange garland. So not only can you make a peanut and popcorn garland, but you can also make a cranberry and orange garland. Nail a seed tray with drainage hose to a fence. So here's the seeds on this tray. Hang suet in a plastic net bag. Hang food in bag. Stick fruits and cheese pieces on a dead branch. So here's a dead branch of some fruit and cheese on it. So there's a bunch of different ways that we can feed animals during the winter. Again, we don't get really too cold in Texas, but you can still do this. I'm sure the birds will still eat the seeds that you leave out if you leave them out, or the popcorn on the garland. And let's see, plant shrubs with berries for food and shelter. Make sure feeders are placed out of reach of predators. See how the cat wants to eat the birds? Put a birdhouse in a tree or under the eaves of your house. So here's a birdhouse. Hang an ear of corn for squirrels and chipmunks. So here's an ear of squirrel. Please remember, once you begin feeding birds and other wild animals in winter, you must continue. They are depending on the food you supply. So if you put food out during the winter, remember to keep replenishing it or putting more food out, because once you put food out, you remember where it's at, right? Well, the animals remember where the food's at that they got them, and they'll go back to get more food from there. So remember to always put more food out. Eventually, the days grow longer, the nights grow shorter, it begins to get warmer. Spring is coming. So here they are, the green grass, green trees. It's starting to get warmer enough for them to plant new plants. So that's the end of our book for book time, Animals in Winter. So we learned about animals that hibernate, which means that they sleep the whole winter. We learned about animals that migrate, which means they move from colder areas to areas that are warmer during the winter. And we also learned about animals that hunt for their food. So I thought that was really interesting that animals do different things to survive the winter. Just like us, we do different things too. So I wonder, what was your favorite way that you learned about that animals stay warm during the winter? And I was wondering if you could choose a way to survive the winter, whether it be migrating, hibernating, or just hunting for your food, which way would you do? And I also wonder, how do you stay warm during the winter? Draw a picture of us showing us you staying warm, and don't forget to share it on Flipgrid with us.